Hey listeners, it's Paul Andriola here. Why not join our community at Small Cap Discoveries, where we offer our members direct access to some of the best microcap investment opportunities available. Our members are getting access to premium microcap financings, research reports, and direct access to management. Sign up today at www.smallcapdiscoveries.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Small Cap Discoveries conference call. Today on our call, we have CEO Kiril Mugerman of Geomega Resources. Geomega trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol GMA and on the OTC under GOMRF. The company is currently trading at 25 cents with roughly 130 million shares outstanding, or about a $32.5 million market cap. I'd now like to hand it over to Paul Andriola.
Hey, thanks, Trevor. You guys are probably wondering what the heck we're doing interviewing a company with the word resources in the title. You guys know that that's not usually what we do, but Geomega Resources, not your typical resource company. What we find interesting here is this is really a technology company more than anything else. So we're happy to have Kiril here. Kiril, I'm going to let you really describe what the company does. This is way over my head, so I'm going to let you guys, present and basically tell a story. Tell us all about Geomega.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, Paul, for having me over. I'm super excited. I'll give you a quick little intro about myself and about the company at the same time, so your listeners can maybe understand the context. So by training, I'm a geologist, and I got into the metals market through exploration. I graduated from McGill. I traveled all over the world. I worked in so many countries. I speak way too many languages, and I enjoyed it. And then I was introduced to the markets by being a mining analyst. And my main task was industrial minerals. So I started looking at industrial minerals just like any other exploration, as you said, resources story. And then I quickly realized that those industrial minerals, the ones that go into our cell phones, into the Teslas, they're not your traditional mining. And that's why you can't really look at them that way. So I really got to know the industry very well. And then I had the chance to join Geomega. Then I became president CEO of Geomega. And I slowly started transforming Geomega into what it is today, which is a clean tech processing company. And you're absolutely right. We are not your traditional resource company. We are not really a resources company anymore. We do have an asset that is kind of dormant, and we can touch on it if you want at the end of this discussion. But we are focused on processing technologies. This is what the team has been growing and doing over the last 5-6 years. Well, I guess 6-7 years already. Time flies by. And I'll show you the slide deck. We'll go through the slides, and if you have any questions at the end, let's jump into them. It will be probably the easiest way. And okay, so Geomega Resources, and again, the word resources is still there. One day we'll change the name. It will not be resources anymore, but it's not the priority right now. It's recycling and clean processing technologies, specifically for critical and strategic metals. And I think that's the most important thing to understand, that we are, let me change screen so I'm looking straight at the camera instead of sideways. I've done that before. And second try, perfect, there we go. So we are focusing on critical and strategic metals. What are those specifically? Rare earth elements, lithium, graphite, hydrogen, you name it. There are many different commodities that we look at, and they are required for everything that we use today, basically the future, the renewable technologies, more sustainable energy. And if you consider day-to-day, it's the Teslas. So when we talk about magnets, that's the main thing that drives those vehicles. Yes, everybody thinks it's the battery, but the battery is what keeps the energy. But that energy then has to start turning the wheels and start moving the car. And that's where those magnets, those rare earths come very handy. So that's what we are focusing on. Everybody is buying cars right now, and everybody is saying, okay, well, how are you going to recycle this battery? Forget about the battery. You do need to recycle as well the rare earths. And those magnets, that's our key main project, the first project that we are going to present today. So that's what we are doing. Forward-looking statement, as you mentioned, Paul, a publicly listed company, so everybody needs to understand that there's a risk in what I'm saying. So when we talk about clean technologies for sustainable metals, rare earth recycling is the first one. Bauxite residues, we'll talk about it much more later, but bauxite residues, so my team started looking at technologies. Okay, so we developed something very interesting. We can extract rare earths, we can extract iron, we can extract, we can recycle the acids, the reagents within the process, which is the core of the technology. And now we want to see, can we apply it to something else? And the answer is yes. Doesn't mean that I can solve every single problem in the world. If somebody tells you that, run away, because there's no one solution that solves everything. But we carefully are looking at different opportunities. So, and bauxite residues, which is from the industry of producing alumina, the waste has a lot of potential for us because it has iron, it has rare earths, it has a few other interesting metals, but most importantly, it has a huge environmental footprint. And to be able to recycle it, you need innovative technologies that can recover those metals and recycle those reagents. So really, as this project 1, project 2 advances, so rare earth recycling, bauxite residues, my team, we are advancing more and more our pipeline of projects. And as I mentioned, we look at various materials from mining ore, mining waste, industrial waste, e-waste. How can we get our hands on rare earths, on lithium, graphite, hydrogen, and the list goes on and on. So we'll touch on this. And then, of course, at the end, we do have our Montviel rare earth project, which is a huge, amazing project, but we haven't really touched it in 6-7 years now. Because we said we want to be producing and we want to be developing those technologies. We want to get our revenue coming from royalties, from licenses, from licensing some of those technologies to majors who have those issues in their backyard, and at the same time producing cash flow from our rare earth recycling business. So that's as a quick intro. I think in case some of your readers and listeners do not know what are rare earths, you don't need to know the 15 elements. You need to know that there are a few of those elements, 4, go specifically into permanent magnets. Why do we care about those magnets? It's not only because it's important for our headphones, speakers in the car, or speakers on our computer. It's really because the wind power industry, so the renewable energy, and the cars, the electric vehicle. Tesla has been the best example. They were against rare earth permanent magnets because Tesla and Elon Musk wanted to be independent of China. And in 2016, they've done their research and they published a report and they said, no, there's no point. We have to go use magnets. Because if you look here on this chart, here's the bill of material with the permanent magnets and an induction motor. Yes, it's more expensive to build with the magnet, but your efficiency and the speed of the motor with the rare earth is significantly more. So you have 10 to 15% more efficiency. But then look at the, if you go with an induction motor, the cost extra for the battery just makes no sense. So the decision was very easy, go with the rare earth permanent magnets. Since then, every single electric vehicle manufacturer said magnets is the way to go. Now we are seeing that it's not only light vehicles, and now the heavier vehicles are switching to this. So magnets is the way to go. Magnets demand. If you go through my slides here, you'll see where it is today, the electric vehicle, electromobility, 7%. But, and if you look at the numbers, just doesn't add up that the market will be able to sustain itself. That's why the demand is going to double to triple over the next 10, 20 years because of all those electric vehicles. It's just, everything is going one direction. And I didn't put here today on purpose prices, charts of prices. I don't like prices in the chart, especially when China is such a dominant player, because they can manipulate prices and they can do things. This is what the juniors mining companies do. I don't care. I built a technology, well, my company, we built a technology where we can sustain low rare earth prices, and that's what we care about. So at the low rare earth prices, we can make money. Price goes up because demand goes up. Perfect. We'll make even more money, and that's the main objective. So let's go straight to the economics. So we got a rare earth recycling demo plant that is going up in production in Saint Bruno, which is just outside of Montreal. If any of your listeners are from Quebec or have been here, so as a starting point, we'll be able to process 1.5 tons per day. Our day will be 8 hours shift. We are running material which has only those 4 elements that I mentioned. Those 4 magnetic elements, they account 30% of the total material. The other 70% is iron. I mentioned earlier iron, and I'll keep bringing up iron because it's a key point to our technology. So that iron will produce as a byproduct, but those 30% rare earths, we'll be able to produce them as final product that can go to other industries to make metal or to make magnets, whatever the industry requires. And suddenly I'm able to recover from this extra value. What do I mean by extra value? I have to buy the magnets. So there is a market for it. We do not disclose the price, how much I purchased them for. We have then an operating cost, which is the number that you see here, $3 a kilo. Then by selling the final product that we'll be producing, we can generate 20 to 25% profit margin. If I want to run the same plant after that on 3 shifts, I can do 4.5 tons a day, so triple. This will probably cost me an extra $1 to $2 million. Target sales $30 million. But very important, what I wanted to mention, in this slide deck and forever, we've been always using pre-2020 increase. When I say pre-2020, I actually mean pre-COVID. I just don't like using COVID in my presentations. So prices went through the roof. Why? Because electrification has been going through the roof over the last 1.5 to 2 years. Demand, supply chain problems and all stuff. If we look at today's rare earth pricing, so the prices today are 3 times more than in my model. So you can multiply those sales times 3. Now that means as well that my magnet supply is more expensive, but it's an elastic model where the price goes up of the material, but my sale price goes up. So actually my margin increases. So it's an elastic thing. People ask me, well, what if prices drop back to $40? That's fine. I make money because I pay only a portion of the value when I buy the magnet, and then I sell it at the full price. So I'm able to make that margin. So that's very important. You can never say that about mines. So in the mines, totally different. So here's the plant. It's not going to be huge. It's a very small footprint. So this is an industrial condo. We rented one of the units here in the center, all the way to the end. And as you can see, a very simple layout of how this process will work. Not rocket science, but the chemistry is very unique. And that's the most important thing. What people need to understand, is this the end of the world? Is this the hardest thing in the world to do? No, it's very complex, but by itself, it's a standard layout. We are trying to use equipment, and everything that we designed is not unique and never seen before. I don't have anything special to be engineered. It's traditional equipment made specifically for us, and that's it. So off the shelf, as they say. So 10,000 square feet plant area, 35-feet ceilings. So you have all my place to work. So the building is there. We rented it. We are using it for storing magnets that we've been purchasing. So waste that we are able to accumulate. So as soon as construction completed, okay, we were targeting to complete in 2020. That's an interesting comment. We are not completing the construction in 2020. We are still in detailed engineering, starting construction at the beginning of next year. And quick summary of how it looks like. So magnets coming in, crushed, goes into the actual unit. So this is a pilot unit, how it looks like. Goes through all the steps, and you have 2 products. You have rare earths that come out as the final products that the end user wants, and iron byproducts. So those are my 2 main streams that we produce. Iron byproduct, why is very important? Because if you look where I am, I'm in the middle of the city. I can't go and dump iron in the tailings pond in the backyard. It will never be accepted. So we needed iron as a byproduct that we can sell back into the iron industry. which is why I present here iron byproduct. Am I making money from iron? Absolutely no. I don't care about selling it. I just want to make it go away into an end user. Quick little summary of rare circular economy. Oxides get produced, goes into metal, alloy, goes into magnets. Every single step produces waste. Every step produces more and more waste. And then, of course, you have the end use, disposal, collection, sorting, and needs to be recycled. This today does not happen outside of Asia. In Asia, there are opportunities. In China, it's a huge business. Outside of China, basically does not exist. And that's what we are trying to establish here outside of Asia. I'll jump quickly into bauxite residues. So this opportunity came to us around 2 years ago. We were starting to look at what other opportunities we can tap into with our technology. As I mentioned, iron is our key ingredient. We love iron. Many industries hate iron because processing materials that are trapped with iron is a problem. So we looked at this and we realized there's iron there, there's rare earths there. It's a huge environmental problem. There's a lot of it. We are talking about over 4 billion tons accumulated globally. If you put a dollar value of around $100, that's over $400 billion of value sitting in there. And every year, the industry of aluminum, we're looking at roughly 80 plants around the world, produces another 150 million tons, which is an extra $15 billion. So the losses are astronomical. And it's been forever, decades that the industry has been trying to find a solution. And all they're able to do is just compact it more and reduce the tailings, but it's never gone. It's always there. So it's an environmental issue. So here's a breakdown of the composition, the iron, the alumina that we can tap into. And here are your rares. They are very, very small. So the idea is not only going after rares, it's a clean technology, a valorization, bringing value to the waste. So we are going to get value for the iron, for the aluminum. And here you can see the breakdown. And then the rare earths and scandium, yes, it's an important value, but you can't just go after it. You have to address the entire problem. So that's what we are doing. And look, we started working with an industrial company, major global industrial company. We weren't able to yet announce their name. We are in the bench scale, going into a pilot, which should be starting, fingers crossed, soon. And we are going after the iron, the alumina, which is volume reduction, because the industry today, as you're familiar, ESG, environmental social governance, they want to see improvements in terms of what we are doing in our operations. And those big industrial companies producing alumina, they produce a huge amount of waste. They need to reduce that waste, and this is where our solution comes in very handy. Nobody has a solution for iron. We have a solution for iron, and through that, we get to recover our errors. So very useful solution, still bench scale, need to demonstrate it at bench scale, then we'll go to pilot, and hopefully throughout all those steps, we'll be able to show the economics. What does it mean for us? We are not going to be building those facilities. It will be built by those bauxite residue producers, by the alumina plants, but we'll be licensing the technology to them. And as I mentioned, there's around 80 of those plants around the world. So that means for us, we have a critical metals R&D group. The expertise is there, the technology strengths that I mentioned, the iron problems, reagent recovery, large volume of waste, environmental footprint, loss of critical and strategic metals. That's what we are after. As soon as we identify this problem, we go there and we use we leverage all those things and the technical team that we have. And right now here is an example of we've got 4 different projects submitted and under review with federal and provincial government. We are talking to European and US governments as well. There's a lot of money on the table right now to solve those global environmental problems, critical and strategic metal problems, how to get value from waste. So we've been putting a lot of work into testing material that we receive from those groups. We run those tests and identify the best ones, those that have the best opportunity. We go forward to the government and we are trying to leverage this non-dilutive money, which is, as an investor, it's very important not to always dilute the company with the extra, because don't forget, right now we don't generate revenue, not yet. Should be coming soon, but not yet. So, and those technologies, the opportunity is to monetize them through licenses and royalties. Finally, Montviel, it's a huge deposit. I won't get into the details. It's in Quebec. There is good support from Quebec government, and we are looking forward to, again, use everything that we've developed with bauxite, residue processing, with rare earth recycling, magnets. How do we apply that now to the Montviel project? Again, it's always about recyclability of main reagents, reduction of the environmental footprint, simplified process, iron byproduct. Doing that for a mine, not only for our mine, but for other companies' mines that need innovative technologies, that's what we offer. Management team, so I introduced myself. My team is Dr. Puya Hajiani. He's the Chief Technology Officer. He's the brains behind all the technology. But now our technical team, we are approximately 10 people. Chief Financial Officer, Mathieu Bourdeau, and we still have the VP of Exploration. As I said, we do have that asset in our books. So board, we brought some technical people to this, both from the magnets industry, so Matt Silvestro, Jobmasters Canada, and Nick Nikolotopoulos, so a metallurgist with background in putting plants into production with generating cash flow, successful entrepreneur from Quebec. So trying to surround myself with more experienced people than myself. And previously I had on my board Gilles Gingras, Costa Kostic, Marius Pino. So all technical people, but more on the financial side and the legal side, auditing, accounting. So a good technical rounded team. And summary, but I guess we'll be doing a discussion now, so no need for a summary. Share structure, 129 million shares, stock options, 8.5 warrants, and that's an important thing. A lot of warrants in the money, expiring next year. Fully diluted, 155 million shares. Cash, 3.4 million in cash and $3 million in Investissement Quebec debt. What we want to make clear, this is debt financing from IQ, has not yet been withdrawn, which means you add up those two numbers together. So it's $6.4 million that I have to build my plant, which costs a little bit less than $5 million. So we are fully funded for that construction. The distribution, me personally, I own 2 million shares, and with the rest of the board, we're around 4.5. And so that's the structure. Strategic investor, we have some strategic investors from Europe, Quebec institutional funds, good support there, and the rest is retail and some private large positions. I guess that's it, Paul. I think I took already much longer than I expected. So
you did just fine as far as timing. But let's dive right in. So you talked about you're going to build a pilot plant, so you're going to generate revenue from there. But ultimately, the way you scale is you're going to be selling these licenses to all the different operators and technically, I guess, to mines and anybody else that's going to be processing this sort of stuff. Why don't you give us a better sense of what does that look like? Are you guys going to get sort of a percentage of revenue? Are you going to get a sort of a tolling fee? Is it just an annual fee? How do you make money through these licenses?
Okay, so just quick correction. It's a demo plant, not a pilot plant.
Right, sorry, yeah.
So
yeah.
Pilot we've piloted this thing twice already, smaller pilot, bigger pilot. Now it's a demo plant. So for us, a demo plant is still a demonstration of the technology at a larger scale. And this is very important for our Japanese friends. So Japan is the second largest magnet producer in the world after China. The problem with Japanese companies, they don't believe and they don't trust anything until they see it operational. So our demo plant, we want to make sure it generates cash for us. We'll be the operator, we'll be running. But at the same time, we want those companies because the companies that make magnets, they have direct need to have each one of those plants built directly at their magnet plant. Because at the magnet plant, you have a 15 to 30% waste generated on the spot. So you imagine like this, you make a loaf of bread, but a big chunk, a brick, let's say, of magnet. Then you have to cut it and slice it into hundreds of pieces. All those cuttings, shavings, the endings and all that stuff, everything that cracks, whatever, is a waste. They can't just go and remelt it and start producing a new magnet. So all this swarf, they term it swarf, needs to be recycled. Today in China, they go and dump it into a vat of hydrochloric acid, problem solved. Then you go and it's as if it came from the mine. Those magnet factories in Japan, And there is now a lot of discussion about a magnet factory in Europe, a magnet factory in the US. Each one of those factories, their economics depends on being able to recover those 15 to 20 to 30% waste. They need it. They can't, they're not economical without it. So either they'll send me the waste and we'll process in our facility. But what we want is each one of those magnet factories building a plant just like ours right there. They'll license the technology, we get a revenue portion, basically a royalty from this. Of course, there's an opportunity where they ship everything to us. This has been and being discussed, where they ship that material for us, we process it, we send it back to them, they make new magnets with it. That's not a problem. And in that case, it becomes a tolling agreement. What will be the actual final agreement? It's hard to say. But even if I do have some tolling agreements, the objective is it's impossible that one plant here in Quebec will be enough. So the companies, those magnet manufacturers, will need to build a plant like this directly at their magnet factory. It's inevitable. Right now, they haven't been doing it because not a single one of those magnet manufacturers wants to have a hydrochloric leaching facility in their backyard.
Fair enough, yeah. So the demo plant you mentioned, you're hoping to get it, the construction started here early next year. What's the timeline? How long before you figure it's going to be complete?
Okay, so I'll be honest with you, it's my first plant that I'm building. And as I said, there was a phrase in my presentation about construction completion at the end of 2020. I don't know where that typo came from, but so we are in 2021. We were working on the detailed engineering throughout this year. We've been working with Hatch, which is a very major engineering firm that came in to validate our technology. That was the main objective. Right now, we are in the detailed engineering, basically the actual construction plans, how to put this whole plant together. We are now starting to work much more with internal engineers for the detailed design. Now that the technology portion, validation of the technology is behind us. So our objective was to start ordering the equipment before the end of this year. We'll see, there's still a few weeks left to go, so lots of things happening right now on a daily basis. But basically, we should be ordering the majority of the equipment very shortly. As soon as the equipment orders are starting to come in, the construction phase on the ground slowly starts as well. So throughout the next year, there's going to be a construction period, a commissioning period, and of course, we are targeting to get this, even during commissioning period, you can start producing already some of the material for end users because they want to start getting it as soon as possible. This is very desirable material. It's the biggest growth right now in the rare earth industry is through rare earth recycling. So there's a lot of interest from so many companies that just want to buy our final products.
And so, you know, assuming that everything goes well, you are able to demonstrate that this works sort of at the metrics that you're hopeful for. What happens next? Like you've got a successful demo facility that is generating cash flow for you, but what do you hope happens next after that? What's the next big step?
Okay, so I guess that we have no choice but to go into our bauxite residue and R&D developments. So for sure, we want to keep running and operating that first demo plant. I think it's very important. The Quebec government has been a big supporter of us. There is so much demand for rare earth recycling in North America, although we don't have the manufacturing power that Europe has. So we suspect that either alone or with another partner, we would want to have a plant in Europe as soon as possible because we are seeing a huge movement in Europe. They already built all those gigafactories. It's only a question of time now before more and more magnets start getting produced in Europe, and then more and more motors will start getting produced in Europe. Beside that, Japan is a target, again, either alone or in partnership with those companies, or they go ahead and license it. Now, this is on the operational side from rare earth recycling. But beside that, there is bauxite residues and our R&D stream. So bauxite residues is going to start taking shape more and more towards sometime next year as we are advancing with the pilot plant, which we still need to start it. But as our pilot plant is advancing, the economics will start being much more clearer. Those economics will be the driver behind establishing the licensing, the royalty agreement with our industrial partner. That royalty is going to dictate the pace of moving forward, because we will not be building the demonstration plants and all that stuff. Those are very expensive plants. They have a big environmental problem. They want to solve it. So they will start, for now, all the piloting is done at our facility. But at the next stage, the demo plants and the semi-industrial or full industrial, whatever they will decide to do, they will fund it there as a partner, as a technology partner. I get my license fees, royalties, and that's what we are targeting. So there's going to be a revenue stream that will slowly start coming in from the bauxite residues opportunity. And then, of course, this entire opportunity of what's in my pipeline. Hopefully, we are able to start announcing some of those pipeline opportunities in the coming months as well. There are a few of them. Some of them are not that far. Some of them we still haven't hit the spec or the demand of the company that has the waste. Because we have to, it's not my waste, so I have to satisfy some criteria. As soon as I do satisfy those criteria, well, then great, here's the partnership, give me some money or support us with the government. We go together, the three of us fund it, and we establish the next stream. So I think what you will see in the future from Geomega will have new streams being added to the company as from the R&D side. Some streams will fail, some streams will be a success. Geomega will run and keep operating its rare earth recycling demo plant. We'll upgrade it to a much more, the full-scale industrial plant after that as well. And beside that, the streams of the revenue streams from the additional plants, Europe, Asia, but potentially this will be more as a license and not as an actual operator. Because running and operating plants around the planet has its own risks as well. So those are executional risks. And sometimes when you enter a jurisdiction, let's say like Germany or the UK, or if you go to Japan, there are things that you don't know until you're actually there, which is sometimes partnering with a local company is much more advantageous.
Now, you mentioned earlier that some rare earths are recycled right now using hydrochloric acid. What is the current state of the recycling industry, and maybe who are your competitors or your expected competitors?
Okay, so in China, rare earth recycling has been developed roughly between 2012 and 2015. They started taking all the magnet scrap, the swarf from the factories as well. And they started using some of the solvent extraction plants directly for rare earth recycling, which means a plant that already has a lot of hydrochloric acid, you leach it, and you pretend as if it's a concentrate from a mine. They run the entire cycle, done. The problem with that, environmentally, it's not sustainable. Your iron, you're basically dumping your iron waste, your tailings in the tailings of the mine. Here, we can't afford it. So the cost for that would be prohibitive. So some companies started, mostly research academia started looking into that, and we have been following that research a lot. But right now, there is some focus on developing. So in the US, there are a couple of companies that are developing rare earth recycling, magnet recycling technologies. In Europe, there are a few opportunities as well. But most of them, really, I would say all of them, they are focusing on one specific thing. They want to take one magnet and they want to recycle it directly into another magnet. So the problem with that, so that's a magnet-to-magnet recycling. They are limiting themselves into how many magnets they can collect. Because it's all a question of, do you have enough material to recycle? And it's a fair question. Is there enough? Because those magnets are found in very small quantities in headphones, computers, laptops, whatever it is. But if you can't get enough, well, can you process it? So that's the limitation in those magnet-to-magnet recyclers. They need to take good solid magnets, and then they do their treatment and they can produce another magnet. They usually drop quality. Now, the problem is they cannot take magnets which are rusted, cracked, oxidized, contaminated with other chemicals. They can't. So which means then it has to go to the waste. But in my case, I don't care. We have a chemical process. So we are a magnet to oxide. So magnet to a final element recycler, which means I don't mind. I will crush everything anyways. So I don't mind if things are oxidized or not oxidized, swarf contaminated with oil or swarf contaminated with another liquid. We can take it, we can process it, and we can get all those huge volumes, that's why in China, it's been so successful, because with hydrochloric acid, go ahead, you can do it. And you still have to go with that chemical route, but much more environmentally friendly than hydrochloric acid. So directly with magnet to oxide recycling, I don't really have a competition right now outside of Asia.
Let's talk about the cash on hand. You talked about 3.4 million in cash. You've got a $3 million, call it a line from the government. That's enough to take care of your demo plant, but any other sort of cash requirements you have over the next, let's say next year? I mean, give us a sense of what your cash requirements might look like.
So this funding is taking me all the way through construction. It covers my working capital, covers all my engineering costs. We have some grants which are covering part of the development. So me putting money into engineering, me putting money into construction get matched with some of the government funding. So there is a lot of this in the background. And so right now I'm fully funded. I don't have to go back to the markets to fund the magnet recycling opportunity. As I mentioned, one thing that we are looking at, of course, it's as well our warrants, which are all in the money. And this is potentially going to bring us $3.5 million over the next 12 months. And with all the announcements that we are expecting over the next few months, we think this is going to be a big cash financing for us. Of course, there are always opportunities. If I have a major or somebody comes and tells me we need to fund this or we need to build this, we are going to evaluate, and if there is a need to fund something, but obviously everything comes with an opportunity, and a major announcement like this of partnership with a major has its own influences on the share price. So we carefully manage our money. So we are not looking necessarily to go to the markets right now, but we are in good discussions with the government. The funding that I mentioned to you, we have this non-dilutive funding that we are expecting a few of them to get approved over the coming months as well. So very well positioned, I would say, right now.
Let's talk a little bit more about the IP or the know-how that you guys have. Is there any IP protection around what you guys have, or is it more of a trade secret?
Depending on what you'll see as we analyze the situation. So magnet recycling, purely magnet recycling, my main competitor has been China. Because my main competitor is China, there is absolutely no point in IP protection through patenting. We are keeping an eye on everything that's happening in the world of rare earth recycling. And as we are seeing there is more increased competition from, let's say, Europe or North America, then a moment will come where we'll say, okay, time to put a patent. Because suddenly my competition is the Western world. Bauxite residues, totally different approach. Who is my competition? The competition are those 15, 20 companies who are producing bauxite, processing bauxite around the world. Yes, there is a bunch of them in China, but the main competition is here. So you have no choice but to go with patenting almost right away. So we always analyze and we say, do we patent or do we do trade secret? Right now, bauxite residues is going through patenting. Magnet recycling is trade secret at the moment. Maybe we'll evaluate over the coming year or two and decide that the time is now to do the patenting. And that all depends based on European initiatives, North American initiatives, because we want to make sure my competition, I can block it.
I mean, you showed some slides earlier on. I probably should have led with this question, as I usually do, but I mean, this is a big issue, right? The addressable market for this sort of stuff is pretty significant. I don't think people really understand, especially if you add in the bauxite and just the growth in the rare earth metals. But the cleanup and recycling is a big, big, big market, is it not?
Look, we now attend regularly government conferences, policy conferences between the European Union and Canada, with North America, with the US, with the UK, with Australia, and that's the main thing on the agenda. They have set themselves so many targets in terms of bringing down greenhouse gases that that they have no choice. You look at the aluminum industry; they're pushing the green alumina, which is much more expensive because of all the positiveness, right? Because by itself it produces a lot of greenhouse gases. So yeah, environmental problem, extracting value from waste, recycling rare earths is on everyone's agenda right now. And suddenly we have ESG component to an investment opportunity. And there are funds that are specifically just looking for this. We had already interesting discussions with some of those funds. And we are a bit unique because we're a public company and we're already there. A lot of them are looking for private opportunities. So we are a bit more advanced than what traditional you'd expect with private equity looking for to get at those early stages. But yeah, no, we have we are in a field which is just starting from scratch, but that field is on everyone's agenda right now. So as you mentioned, bauxite residues is it's such a massive problem. And then everybody says like, well, how come it hasn't been solved already? It's such a complicated problem. Now, what guarantees that we will solve it? Nothing. There is no guarantee that we will solve it. And that's the risk with forward-looking statements. We have a solution. We think the solution is very good. And we haven't designed it from scratch. We took it from something that we've been doing for 5 years with magnets recycling. And as I said, that's why for me, iron has been an amazing opportunity. We wouldn't be touching bauxite residues just for the rares. Absolutely no. We look at so many studies that have been published. You will never make money because you're just extracting 1%, making money, good, but then you have to dump all the waste and the waste stays there. So you haven't solved the issue. If anything, you just created a bigger issue. So our approach, the way we select wastes and the way we approach and treating it is very, very unique. And this we were told directly by the majors that we are working with on those problems with bauxite residues. Our approach is very, very unique.
Now, I mean, clearly you have to prove the technology out. Where could it fail? Like where's the pivotal points where this might not work?
For rare earth recycling, magnets, I think we're past that point. This is my opinion, but honestly, we brought Hatch partially basically for this. We wanted a group with a lot of expertise to point the finger and say, this is a weak spot, this is a weak spot, this is a weak spot. That's why our work with them in the beginning, the first year that we were working with them, was quite slower than I expected, because suddenly they came up with all those what if, and we found a couple of places where we said, that's true, actually we need to redesign this. And that's why I mentioned to you we did 2 pilots, because partially it was triggered by all those changes that we had to do to the technology that where they put red flags. So we covered all those red flags, we removed them, we tested them, we ran our pilot, we've done the test work, and then we said, okay, we're moving on. Now that we are moving on, I'm much more comfortable with the technology than let's say a year and a half ago.
And then what other challenges do you face as a business?
Look, we get the common question, if I have enough material to process. That's a very true question. And as I said, if I was very selective about what kind of magnets I can process, absolutely. But because our process is chemical and I can process that swarf from the factories, there's so much material to process, it's not even funny. So yes, we want more magnet factories here in North America and in Europe, because in Europe right now there's only one really major one, but there's a bunch of them in Japan, and Japan doesn't know what to do with it. They all depend on Chinese companies to get it off their hands. So they all want their own solution, because they're like, we have those rare earths in our hands, and then we give it to the Chinese. They don't want to. They want to keep it to themselves, but they just don't have the technology. And they looked at what we have and they said, that's amazing, but does it work, right? So they always have this mentality, I want to see the plant work. So that's a challenge of convincing people that there is enough material. But we addressed it, in my opinion, and honestly, since the price of rare earths doubled and tripled over the last 12 months, the amount of companies that calling us because they want to sell their magnets is just going crazy, because they all realize, oh my God, I'm sitting on value. Why am I throwing it out? All the recycling companies that are processing scrap, metal scrap, they are trying to get more metal out. E-waste companies are trying to get more rare earth magnets out. The opportunities are basically popping up everywhere. And now the amount of scooters that has been added to the road, the electric scooters, the electric vehicles, the amount of wind turbines, everything is just been going. Right now wind turbines has been a big has gone through a big growth stage. And now we are at the stage where those initial ones from the early 2000s are getting dismantled.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, where's the most value in my wind turbine? Oh, it's in the magnet. And there are companies which are being set up right now. They specialize in taking those massive turbines or massive structures which contain magnets, and they take them all apart one by one, and then they are able to collect them and ship it off to a processor. So the industry is really growing fast right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So where, looking to the future, where do you see the business in 5 years? What does it look like?
Oh, look, for me, I'll be honest with you, the blue sky potential is in the bauxite. It's bauxite residue because there is so much of it. And the opportunity is huge. I think rare earth recycling can generate us very good revenues. And I think it will grow significantly, that market as well. But bauxite residues, if we are able to solve that problem and get our technology into even 50% of the aluminum plants around the world, you are just looking at very big revenues to the company. No matter what's going to be the royalty, the volumes are just through the roof. So that is the blue sky potential at the moment. There are 2 or 3 streams that we are working on right now that are just as, let's just say, sexy as this bauxite residue material, but there's no, the reason we don't announce them, because I don't want to announce and then 6 months later to say, oh, it didn't work. It was just a hype. I don't want it. When we actually get to a point where we see enough that there is a reason to move it forward, that's when we'll announce it. But there are 2 streams that I think are very important to the electric vehicle industry as well. And one of them could be very interesting for us in the future. So I think in 5 years from now, I want to be a company that generates cash from my main business. We will want to be an operator. It's important to be an operator to process, to use your own technology, because that way you're actually able to troubleshoot. And if there is an issue or modification, you're much better equipped for that. But beside that, we'll have our R&D group, which I know will only grow from now. I mean, 10 people now. We were 3 people a year and a half ago. So that will grow, and that will open new avenues. And I suspect, hopefully, bauxite residues will be generating us some revenue from somewhere already by that time. There are no specific timelines, because those projects can take a lot of time to develop. But at the same time, if the major sees that the opportunity is there, they inject cash right away, because they gain so much by putting a green label on their company brand, that they produce an alumina that does not pollute. And the amount of environmental, social acceptability that they gain, for them injecting money just does not is not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's what appeals to me with what I've seen here so far. Like your job is not to go out and build these plants. Your job is really to sort of license the technology and have the others, you know, spend the big money in building these out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kiril, as investors, what should we be watching for? Let's say over sort of the next 3, 6, maybe 12 months. What sort of catalyst or metrics should we be watching for to sort of understand that you guys are executing on what you're trying to do here?
That's a good question, because in my opinion, I did not have my best year. I wanted to be much more advanced in my engineering. I wanted to be much more advanced in my construction and production. So I'd say very important for me to hit my next milestones, begin construction, begin ordering all the equipment. So those are all things for the next 3-6 months. There's going to be, once we are able to get to that point where things are happening on the ground, we'll be giving regular updates so the investors know how is the construction advancing, how close are we. So that's on the magnet recycling. Beside that, on the bauxite residues, I think you'll start seeing updates on success of our bench scale, or the results of our bench scale, funding for the pilot. Some of those projects that I put here, where is this? Some of the projects that we put here, we have a $15.5 million of projects submitted already to the government. So I suspect some of those projects will start getting announced as they get approved. Fingers crossed that they all get approved. So that brings extra cash to the company, extra developments. So those are all milestones, important milestones. Each one of those milestones gets me a step closer to getting my royalty signed with those companies. And don't forget, this is not a deposit. It's not them, oh, when will they build it in 10, 15 years from now? No, if the technology is right, they go and build it, because it's a problem, it's a waste on their ground. Mm-hmm. And we do it in such a way that, like, we've looked at some opportunities. Companies came, they said, oh, you like iron? Here. We look at it, we process it, we do some test work, we do the calculation, and we're like, so how much are you going to pay for this? Mm-hmm. Well, this is what we pay for it right now. I'm like, well, if that's how much you pay for it right now to store it, get it out of the way, I can't compete with this. Mm-hmm. Just keep storing it. So sometimes there's just no money made in the waste, which means unless they are willing to pay me 3-4 times that, or not me, but to process it, I've got no interest. So if there's no value to be made out of a waste, it's just a bad waste, we don't touch it. So we want as well, I think investors should be paying attention to what do we announce, what are the milestones, not milestones, but what are the projects that we announce. Those streams will be important. Of course, we want our partners to start putting their names on our press releases, but that's been a challenge. Sometimes it's an early stage project, such as the bauxite residues. It's not in the pilot. So the partners say, we'll work with you in the background, but our name is not there. So once the investors will start seeing those names that are getting announced, I think the people will understand that we are working with very significant, important companies that are willing to spend whatever money is required.
Perfect. Okay, so we're nearing the end here. What we always like to do is give you the opportunity to give sort of a key takeaway or key message for everybody who's listening today. What is that key message? What do you want to make sure everybody leaves understanding about Geomega today?
Well, look, we are developing clean processing technologies for critical and strategic metals. That's my first one. So I don't want people to start looking at the word resources. So clean processing technologies. The idea is low CapEx, low OpEx, rare earth recycling. That's my first key business. Second one, bauxite residues. But what's combining all this? This is a technology. And that technology is going to bring us royalties, licenses, and revenue from our own plant. And of course, leveraging that expertise is going to bring extra value in the future. So I don't know if any of your investors follow rare earths, not rare earths, but mining project generators or royalty companies. royalties companies have been huge in the last couple of years. And why? Because it takes time to build them. But once those royalties blossom, it's just free cash to the company. And I think that's what we're trying to establish here. But to avoid having to wait for all those royalties, we'll have our own cash flow that will keep pumping more money into our R&D, which will produce even more royalties in the future. So it's a very good business strategy, and we've seen it work in several other sectors. And I think we are able to establish this here in those critical and strategic metal sectors as well.
Fantastic. So listen, if somebody wants more information on the company, what's your website address, or what's the best way to get more information on the company?
Definitely on the website, you can get a lot of information, but don't hesitate, contact me either by phone or by email. I usually try and get back to investors, maybe not with the most complete answer by email, but if the questions are there, I'm able to get back usually with the proper information, or I'll even organize a call, and sometimes we'll try and organize a call for a few investors at the same time, so just to accelerate it. But don't hesitate. I'm very accessible. I'm very approachable. I don't stay away from investors. We'll just send me an email.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And listen, I wanna plug something kind of unusual here, but Kiril's brother is a baker, and just down the street from where I live, I got to tell you, this place is called Bad Dog Bread, and I'm not kidding. It's some of the best bread I've ever had. So if anybody's in the area, I highly, highly, highly recommend you check out Bad Dog Bread for some fantastic stuff. Kiril, I want to thank you today for joining us. I think it's been very enlightening, certainly for me, to understand what you guys are doing. And you know, obviously we wish you success, because not only do we think if this works, you're gonna make a lot of money, but you know, real good for the environment as well, and cleans up a lot of problems that we've been historically sort of sweeping under the rug. So I think you know, we all wish you success here, and certainly look forward to catching up with you when there's another significant milestone in the business. Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul. Looking forward to coming to Vancouver and grabbing a coffee with you and a bun at my brother's place there. That's fantastic. I look forward to that. We've been speaking with CEO Kiril Mugerman, Geomega Resources. I would say Geomega Technologies, or we could always call it something else. Symbol is GMA on the Venture Exchange. Kiril, one last time, thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye now.